Yo, quick heads up before we start the video. If you can hear noise in the background, I apologize. I usually record audio at like 3 in the morning, but this is one of those rare instances where I ended up recording this in the middle of the day, so despite the noise, I hope you enjoy.
You're now watching the mystical Green Beanie.
Hey, what's going on, dudes and dudettes? I am the mystical Green Beanie, and this is not a video that I ever thought I would be making. Like, ever. So yeah, I'm working on several things at the moment, mostly videos for you fine people, and then out of nowhere, Zack Snyder from his Vero account announces that the Snyder Cut of the Justice League is not only real, but it's getting released next year. So, okay, let's get into this. Jesus Christ, I feel so unprepared. So yeah, man, first off, I just want to say that this makes me super happy, and I'm super excited about this. I love Zack Snyder. He's one of my favorite directors. He hasn't made a film that I don't like yet, and I'm really happy that he's finally getting to finish his Justice League film. Because, I mean, I understand that Justice League was only part 3 in a 5-part story that he wanted to tell, and we'll most likely never get parts 4 and 5, and I've actually seen quite a few people use this as, like, detraction, but honestly, I'm fine with that. Because it's that thing with comics, right? I'm not reading a comic to simply see what comes next, or to see how this thing connects to that thing. I'm taking in the story that's being told in the moment. You know, I'm watching how these characters are engaging with the world around them, both proactively and reactively. Is reactively a word? Fuck it, I'm gonna make it a word. Reactively. But yeah, that's kind of how I engage with all fiction across media. Like, I mean, yeah, it sucks that we're never gonna get a sequel to DMC Devil May Cry, but I still love playing that game, because I love the gameplay, and I love the story, and I think those characters are rather interesting within the context of the story that's being told. Just like I'll always go back and watch the Spectacular Spider-Man, even though I know that it ends on the world's most captivating cliffhanger. The journey those characters go on between seasons 1 and 2 is still masterfully handled, and it's really fun to watch unfold. So again, I'm less of a destination kind of guy, and more along for the journey in regards to storytelling. Also, the film that Justice League was promised as is exactly the kind of thing that plays to my sensibilities. I have always wanted, ever since reading Final Crisis, and well, the second time around when it was collected in the proper reading order and wasn't a pain in the ass to try to read, I've always wanted a grand, epic, metal superhero film. You know, like, if you took a bunch of superheroes and threw them into the world of Doom Eternal, that is what I've wanted since I was, like, 14 or 15 years old. And it really looked like Snyder was going to bring that to life, but things happened. You know, there was a significant loss that he suffered, he stepped away, and then he was replaced for corporate reasons, and, quite frankly, his film was hijacked. However, as scummy as it was to have him replaced the way that he was, and this is going to be an unpopular thing to say, I don't blame Kevin Tsujihara for making the choice to replace Snyder at the last minute and try to course correct the DC Extended Universe and make it look more like the very profitable rival franchise, the MCU. Because if I was in his situation, I can't definitively say that I would have made a different choice. And speaking of blame, I don't blame Joss Whedon for turning the Justice League into, well, a dollar store version of the Avengers. Because A, that is what he was hired to do. B, that style of storytelling suits his sensibilities. And C, he was only given 6 months to do it. Plus, I think Whedon's getting way too much shit for this. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of Joss Whedon's. Nothing against the guy, but I just kind of feel like he broke pop culture entertainment. Because he was certainly a revolutionary in the 90s and the early 2000s with Buffy, Angel, Firefly, Serenity, all that stuff. His big shtick was being tongue-in-cheek and making characters self-aware of the absurdity of fiction. And I don't dislike that inherently, but the problem is that Whedon made a career off of being subversive by making characters just barely break the fourth wall, by calling attention to tropes in media, and after 15 to 20 years of people riffing off his style in comics, video games, TV, and other films, it was no longer subversive to have characters be ultra-witty and frivolously joke about tropes in fiction. It just became the new trope. And with Whedon sort of guiding the MCU after the success of the Avengers, even after taking a step back after Age of Ultron, the MCU moving forward still felt like it was a Joss Whedon project, just in the way that characters talked and interacted with each other and joked around with one another, because of Whedon's impact on pop culture. And I say all this to say that Zack Snyder was not trying to make a superhero movie that looked and felt like the MCU, or anything else that we'd seen done with superheroes in the scope of wider pop culture. And then Joss Whedon's brought on board, and we kind of end up with a generic MCU-style film. I mean, hell, it's worse than that. It's a failed attempt at an MCU-style film. So, it's a no-brainer that the final product felt like a confused mess of a movie. So yeah, I'm really hyped for this. I'm really glad that I'm finally going to see the sequel to my two favorite superhero movies. I mean, they're not my two favorite superhero movies. Maybe my top 10. Actually, probably my top 5. But, they're certainly up there. Because for me, Batman v Superman The Ultimate Edition has aged like a fine wine. It's weird. I went from wanting to like the theatrical cut, to hating it, to watching the Ultimate Edition and kind of liking it, to really thinking about it and what it was trying to say and what it was pulling from in the comics and what it was saying about those comics and how they reflected the world around us. I really fell in love with that movie. And it just gets better with each passing year. Same with Man of Steel, but the difference is I adored that film from the get-go. So yeah, I'm hyped. But what about you? What are your thoughts? Are you excited? Are you not excited? I heard that it was supposed to be released on HBO Max as like a 6-hour miniseries. I'm not sure if there's any validity to that, but I'd certainly be down for it. I mean, if anything, I feel like Zack Snyder's storytelling works better for a long-form storytelling platform. But yeah, let me know down below in the comment section. Oh, and one more thing. I'm seeing a lot of people trying to play the mortal high ground card. Just stop. Like, seriously, if you were a part of hashtag boycott Sony and boycott Sony Spider-Man when it was announced that Sony was pulling Spider-Man from the MCU, if you were one of the people who were cheering for Disney to buy Fox Studios and inch closer to becoming a monopoly the likes of Comcast, AT&T, Facebook, and Google, simply because you wanted to see the X-Men and the Fantastic Four in the MCU, if you were a part of any vocal group of people or movement on the internet that demanded that an entertainment company give you something that you want, regardless of how it affected other people, you really can't point the finger at the Snyder Cut fanbase and call them toxic. I mean, you can, but that just makes you a pot calling the kettle black. But yeah, I'm the Mystical Green Beanie. Thanks for watching, and as always, until next time, adios, nachos, adios.